Hey there, welcome to the sermon preview. I'm really glad that you took a second to join me here today. We are continuing on in our Lent series called VII, where we're looking at the 7 signs of Jesus that John records in his gospel. And so we've looked at a few so far. We looked at 3, Jesus turning water into wine, Jesus healing the official's son, and Jesus healing the paralyzed man at the pool of Bethesda. And so this week, as we continue on in that same idea, we are going to be looking at the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. This is a pretty common story. I think this is one of those stories that a lot of people are told as children that they grow up hearing about. But I think there's some deeper things that we can learn as we dig into this text. And so we're going to be looking at John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. And in this passage, we see that Jesus he's by the Sea of Galilee, and it says that it's during the time of Passover, which is interesting. In Jesus' public ministry, he experiences 3 Passovers. Public ministry is almost 3 years long. And in these 3 Passovers, this is the only one that he is not in Jerusalem for. So it's interesting, and maybe there's some deeper significance for us to find in that on Sunday. But basically there's this big crowd that comes, they're following Jesus, they've seen the signs and the miracles that he's been doing, and they're excited. They're following him because of these things. And so Jesus, he sees this large crowd, and he says to Philip, hey, where can we buy bread? Where can we get bread for this many people? And Philip, he says, hang on here, Jesus. There's a lot of people here. We know there's about 5,000, and that's just 5,000 men, actually. So women, children. It's very possible that this could be up to 20,000 people that are following Jesus. Just imagine 20,000 people sitting, following Jesus, listening to him speak. Just incredible. So Jesus says, how can we feed all these people? And Philip says, we can't buy enough bread for this. One, that would be over 6 months worth of wages. He says 200 denarii, and that's about 6 to 8 months worth of wages. So it's more than that. We don't have that money. But then 2 is there's no towns around the Sea of Galilee here that make enough bread in a single day to feed all of these people. It's just not possible, right? So again, here we see that Jesus is taking something that is impossible and he's making it possible. And then we have dear brother Andrew. Andrew is one of the disciples. He's Peter's brother. And he finds a boy that has some loaves of bread and fish. 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And he brings them to Jesus. This small amount of food that would just be enough to feed a boy, maybe as a snack, maybe a meal. He brings those to Jesus and says, Jesus, it's not much, but here is what we found. And then Jesus does the incredible. He takes it, he breaks it, he distributes it to the disciples, and the disciples began to feed these thousands upon thousands of people, and there's food left over. This is incredible. A few loaves and a few fish turned into enough food to feed thousands. So there's a couple things that it's important for us to look at this. There's an uncanny similarity here in how Jesus fed these thousands of people and how God provided for the Israelites in the wilderness. If you remember, when they came out of Egypt, they were hungry, and so God provided for them manna. And again, here we see that Jesus is providing bread or manna for these people. He's providing for them. He is sustaining them. The other thing that we see here is that in the hands of Jesus, little is much. So in the hands of Jesus, a little bit is a lot. Right? So in our lives, what are we bringing to Jesus? What little things do we have that might not seem like a lot? What can we bring to Jesus and allow him to multiply into something amazing? So as you're reading through this passage, be thinking about some of those things. How is Jesus, how has he sustained you in your life? Has he sustained the Israelites in the wilderness? Has he sustained these thousands of people on the hillside? How has he sustained you in your life? But then also, what are some little things that you have, whether it's a gift or a talent or something that you don't think is worth much? how can you bring that to Jesus and allow him to multiply that? So I'm excited for Sunday. This is a wonderful passage. We see the greatness of Jesus, the majesty of Jesus, and we see how much he cares for us and that he is wanting to sustain us in this life and the next. So really excited, looking forward to continuing on in our Lent series here on Sunday. See you then.